Think painting is hard? These 10 tips will make it so much easier. Let's go. So the first tip is layering like a pro. Now layering is the easiest way to take your paintings from beginner flat looking to more pro level with depth, realism, and dimension. Now you can think of layering kind of like building a house. You want to start with a solid foundation, and then you want to build the layers, and then you want to finish with the details. So 2 key tips here is letting each layer dry before adding the next, and the second is starting with your darkest colors and working your way up to the lighter ones. So the second tip is keeping your paints wet. Now this is one of the most common questions people often ask with acrylics. Acrylic paint dries super fast, and once it's dry, you cannot reactivate it like watercolor. One of the easiest things you can do is just misting it with water on your palette every so often. Now you want to be careful here and not add too much water because it can actually dilute the vibrancy of your paint. Now, if that's too fussy, you can actually use a gloss glazing liquid and mix it right into your paints, which will both extend the drying time of your paints without affecting its color. So this is one of my most favorite mediums to have on hand for that very reason. You can also use a wet palette, which will keep your paints wet for hours and even days. Now I have a full video dedicated to wet palettes, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So tip number 3 is perfect paint consistency. I find that paint that comes straight out of the tube a little bit too thick, and I find it gives a more streaky and clumpy look when you apply it on canvas. So what I personally love doing is thinning down my paint with water to a more gravy-like consistency. I find this gives a smoother application. It really actually helps with blending also. And then getting those fine details are really crisp and actually more enjoyable. Painting fine lines with a thick paint is kind of like writing with toothpaste. It doesn't work well and it's not fun. Thinning my paint has made a huge difference in my art, and it's one of those tips I absolutely love sharing because it really works. Tip number 4 is blending. Now blending can be super satisfying, but it can also trip up beginners. It did for myself. The biggest mistake I see is trying to blend colors on your canvas that have already begun to dry or dried already. What ends up happening then is that you get blocks of colors instead of those smooth gradients. The key here is to work quickly and to keep your paints wet on your canvas by just misting it with some water. You also want to use back and forth strokes with a wide flat brush to get super soft transitions. For more blending tips, check the link in the description below. Tip number 5 is organizing your paint supplies. If your paint supplies are out of sight and they're scattered, you're less likely to use them. I used to keep my paint supplies in a big Rubbermaid container in the basement, and I maybe painted once or twice a year. Now I keep them in a rolling cart on my main level where I can easily see them and then grab as I go. Remember, out of sight is out of mind, so keep your painting supplies close by and accessible to stay inspired. An idea here is to keep them in clear plastic containers and maybe store them in your kitchen or even beside your couch. So tip number 6 is don't avoid cheap paints and cheap canvases. Now dollar store paints and canvases have gotten a bad rap, but I think they're personally perfect for beginners. I still buy dollar canvases for my tutorials. And fun fact, one of the most popular tutorials on this channel is made only with dollar store supplies. There is one caveat though. So dollar store paints won't be as vibrant as your professional grade paints, but they're still great for learning. So what I did personally is I started with dollar store paints, and then I upgraded to student quality and even professional quality tubes over time. Tip number 7 is DIY your painting tools. Don't go out buying every gadget, gizmo, and tool that gets recommended to you for a painting technique. Instead, look at home first and start getting creative. One of my most favorite things to do is raid my recycling bin to find some really cheap painting tools. Bottle caps, bubble wraps, skewers, netting, you name it. These everyday items can create some really cool textures, especially in abstract art. Or you can try flipping around your brush for a free dotting tool for mandala art. And let's not forget my all-time favorite non-painting tool, Q-tips. They're amazing at creating those perfect little dots for flower art. They work like magic for blending and then also softening those harsh edges in shading. Tip number 8 is use chalk. Sketching with chalk saves you so much time. That way you can get your proportions and your sizes just right before committing with paint. And plus, chalk wipes off really easily without affecting your painting. So tip number 9 is paint markers. I used to dread the final stages of my painting because I found it hard to control the paint using my brush. And then I discovered fine point paint markers. Now I 100% enjoy the final detail part of my painting process. And plus, they make it super easy to sign your signature at the end. All right, tip number 10 is don't ruin your brushes like me. I've ruined so many brushes, it's actually embarrassing. I've either forgot to clean them off at the end of a paint session, or I've left them bristle side down in my paint water for an extended period of time. I've learned the hard way, pun intended, that hardened paint is super difficult, if not impossible, to clean off and fix. Also, soaking your brushes upside down for an extended period of time, what it can actually do is it can bend your bristles permanently like that. And then also what it does is it softens the glue that holds the brush together, and eventually it's going to fall apart. And trust me, painting with a brush that's bent and that keeps on falling apart is not exactly a joyful painting experience. The best practice here is to clean off your brush right away in that water and then lay it flat to dry. That's gonna save you a ton of frustration and brushes. All right, I have a bonus tip for you. Tip number 11, because who doesn't love a good bonus? So tip number 11 is learning how to color mix. In my opinion, learning how to mix your colors is the most gratifying way to up your painting game. It's such a good feeling to be able to whip up the colors you need at home instead of having to roll out to Michael's for every new paint color. Learning how to paint mix will increase your confidence, and it's actually going to make your art look more unique and complex because mixed paints at home are often richer in color compared to the store-bought variety. And it's going to save you a ton of money. Also, I don't know about you, but having too many tubes of paint in your painting stash can be very overwhelming. I would personally just start out with 5 paint colors: blue, red, yellow, white, and black, and then learn how to mix all your other colors from those 5 paints. Now, if you're looking for even more ways to grow your painting skills, check out my video, 6 Easy Painting Techniques. It's packed with ideas to level up your art. And until next time, sending you lots of peace, love, and color.